Hi. A couple of years ago, I attended a lecture at the Katona Museum of Art by curator Elizabeth Rookledge that completely changed the way I look at paintings and art. She spoke about how abstract expressionism developed. That is, artists moved from representations of things that were realistic to more abstract forms. And ultimately, she reached the far side of abstraction with art of pure colors and shapes that didn't represent any physical beings, objects. So, as somebody whose taste in art leans more toward the Norman Rockwell school of down to earth realism, uh, I had looked a little askance at extreme expressionism. But you know what? Her lecture made me think again about art and what artists are trying to accomplish. For the first time, I got what these artists were up to. What had been a mystery to me, and one that I didn't really like all that much, became something that I could kind of get. I could see what they were up to through the artist's eyes. It looked more complex to me and more like something I could respect. So these thoughts came to me recently after I saw documentaries on Amazon about the jazz musicians John Coltrane and Miles Davis, and then the rock blues group ZZ Top. Um, I'm a huge fan of all of these artists, and at least I'm a fan of, say, their earlier works. Coltrane and Miles Davis did landmark work in the 50s and 60s. They were lyrical, they were emotional, they were inventive. Davis's music especially really penetrated straight into my cerebral cortex and provoked all kinds of moody images, good images. And so, in fact, here's evidence of how early I got into them. Here's his album, The Complete Birth of the Cool, which I got in McAllen, Texas, December 1975, when I was only 18 years old. And then here's his other giant landmark record, Kind of Blue, which I bought in New York in February 1983. Here's even a 12-volume Miles Davis set, complete prestige recordings. We can talk about that later. So this was all great, but the documentaries made the point that Coltrane and Davis, however phenomenal they were earlier in their career, were reaching a point where they wanted to go in different directions. They didn't want to just keep doing what worked when they were younger. So you had John Coltrane expressing his spirituality, while Miles Davis explored his interest in trends like electronic music, Indian music, jazz, rock, funk. He was really open to anything. So the records that they did from their later periods, Coltrane in the late 60s, Miles Davis starting around 69, 70, kind of left me cold. In fact, the documentary about Coltrane said that people were actually walking out of his concerts because they just couldn't get his new sounds. They were expecting Lush Life and maybe My Favorite Things, and he wasn't going to do that. He was going to go with what he wanted to do. The same thing happened with Miles Davis, who I heard in concert in 1975 after he'd come back from illness. And he started doing things like Bitches Brew, which just weren't my cup of tea. But after I saw these documentaries, I'm ready to at least give them another listen. Train and Miles were both artists that were pushing into new territory. They were playing what they wanted to play, not what the public wanted from them. So teenage musicians, unusual instruments, electronic squalls, why not? Neither of them was going to be an oldies act where they just kept playing the same standard repertoire over and over again, like other artists who have a groove and they've got a public, and that's what they're going to give them. They were never ones to skate. Their accomplishments gave them the right to play whatever they wanted, and they did. And the same goes for ZZ Top, which is about as far away from Train and Miles as you can get. The trio was really on heavy rotation on my record player when I was in high school with their first three albums. Uh, ZZ Top's first album, then you had Rio Grande Mud, and then Tres Hombres. Songs like Brown Sugar, Somebody Else Been Shaking Your Tree, and of course, LaGrange were things that I thought were just terrific. But then the same thing kind of happened. They started playing other things, and I just kind of lost interest. I've shifted over more to blues and jazz and other kinds of music, and I knew about their MTV videos, which I liked a lot, and some of their singles, but I didn't seek them out like I had in the past. But again, the documentary ZZ Top, that little old band from Texas on Amazon, reawoke my interest in them. And I thought, they're kind of like Coltrane and Miles Davis. They're not going to rest on their laurels. Different tunings, other influence. They're out there doing it with 15 albums, only some of which I'm familiar with. ZZ Top has left a lot of material for to listen to. So from Coltrane's A Love Supreme to Miles Davis's Bitches Brew to ZZ Top's Mescalero, I got some listening to do. Will my ears perk up? Will my cerebral cortex tingle? I don't know. But like I learned from that lecture at the Katona Museum of Art on expressionism, some art deserves a second listen. Thank you.